Let's let the robots do the work. What's the worst that could happen? Every business wants to know, did my ad work? When somebody sees my ad, did that encourage them to make a purchase? And that's one of the attractive things about digital advertising is when done correctly, you can plot from when somebody saw that ad all the way through to the purchase, when done correctly. But digital advertising has been plagued with ad fraud. In other words, the ads you're paying for aren't actually being seen by people with eyeballs and money. Some of it can be attributed to Google and Facebook, YouTube, those entities just being negligent and sloppy with their reporting.
The time and the days of giving digital a pass are over. It's time to grow up. It's time for action.
A lot of it, though, can be attributed to out-and-out criminals. Criminals who are making it appear that your ads are being seen by people when they're not.
Malicious bots posing as you, viewing thousands of ads every day.
These are highly sophisticated, organized criminals, and they are creating ever-evolving programs that mimic human behavior.
Now, solving the problem has been put on the backs of the duopoly of Facebook and Google, but it also has to do with whether or not the person who's managing your digital advertising is paying attention and managing it properly. After a recent article from Forbes magazine came out, there was a pretty interesting conversation that was happening around the Wizards Roundtable, and you are going to get a chance to eavesdrop on that right now. With us today in Tucson, Arizona is Dave Young. He was one of the original pioneers in getting businesses to blog more and put video on their sites, thus enhancing their SEO. In Guadalajara, Mexico, is Luis Castañeda, who is a digital expert who really pays attention to what's happening with businesses, and he's going to help explain how a business can make sure they're not being taken advantage of and what they should look for. And I'm Johnny Molson in Springfield, Illinois, and let's start at the start. Does digital advertising have a fraud problem?
There is fraud, I'm not a fraud denier, but also I think fraud has existed, is not unique to internet advertising. I come from the print media world, and you have lots of stories of magazine being printed but never distributed and things like that. Yes. So in my opinion, most of the fraud is due to poor management. When I started selling advertising, I worked for a guy called Chris Lund, and he taught me that the responsibility to prove results is from the publisher, not from the client. And this guy really made it very important for his business to prove value, to prove result to his clients. And I really think that is a key, important aspect of what I do. And I take it to the heart that I am responsible of showing my clients the value of internet advertising.
Well, and I guess would it be fair to say that there is, fraud is a pretty charged word. I would say some of that can be at least attributed to the fact that there are just unattended bots that are hitting these websites that Google and Facebook and the others don't know if it's a human or not. And then there's blatant fraud where people are just ticking the things up. So I think it's important to know that distinction. But Luis, for a business owner, what should they be looking for that would say, wait a minute, something's not adding up here?
Well, in my experience, every advertising campaign needs to have an objective. Okay, so once you know what the objective is, obviously you need to measure, how do you measure the result? How do you know if it worked or not? And that will be the first step. Mm-hmm. Second step is, the follow-up. I try to use the Deming circle approach: plan, do, check, act. And I think most of us fail at the acting part. We do the plan, we do the do, we do the check, but then it's like, I got the report, fine.
Right.
But you need to go to the details and make actions on that. And that's how I think you can find those peculiarities or those outliers Okay, so I think it is important based on your objectives, what is helping to reach the objective, what is not, or also based on your web traffic, which is in my case the medium that we use to capture the leads or the sales, is to see, okay, which sources of traffic are bringing results and which ones are behaving weird. They only stay for 1 second. Okay, something's wrong. Either my site is wrong or something is wrong with the person that visited my site. So
well, that's interesting.
Have to follow up.
Okay, so time spent on the site might be an indicator that you're getting hit by some bots. Is that fair?
That's fair to say. That will be one indicator. Or as I mentioned before, look for outliers, because maybe not even bots. Let's forget about the bots. Let's forget what is working and what is not. Because even if it is a valid website, New York Times is sending traffic to my website, but it's not working. It's not getting me leads. It's not getting people to download my white paper or to see my video, or, they stay less time than anyone else. So you have to go after those signals, and then, regardless if it is a bot or not, start making decisions. And no, I don't want to bring traffic from those sources.
This conversation started on Facebook in our private group, discussing an article in Forbes that talked about, like the headline said, when big brands stop spending on digital ads, nothing happened. Why? And it talked about Procter & Gamble. They made the decision to shut off $200 million in their digital ad spend, and they saw no change in sales. And Uber shut off $120 million in their ad spend and didn't see any change, no drop in meaningful numbers. And it turns out that there's a whole lot of it was fraud. And I think Luis's point about it being mismanagement it's a very valid point. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes some of these gigantic companies just have barrels of money that somebody's responsible for getting rid of in some way, right? They're just like, shovel it out the door because it's your budget and you have to spend it. Exactly. And you end up making horrendous decisions. And if a local business owner is not careful, there was the one point in that article talks about somebody that was spending dollars even in their AdWords on the what Google calls the display network, right? Mm-hmm. So rather than and the definition of that is that your ads are showing up on lots of other websites as opposed to just Google searches where there's obvious ads, right? Mm-hmm. So now your ads are showing up on who knows, right? And you can control that. You can actually go in and tell Google, no, let's not do that site. Let's not do that site. Let's not do this site. And I think the way the story went was that she shut off the display network and her traffic dropped by 118,000% or something like. A huge amount of her traffic was coming from the display network and her ads, but they weren't sticking around, and they were all coming from Android devices, and so it was some form of bots clicking on those ads and coming to her website. There were never going to be sales, right? It wouldn't matter what kind of landing page you had. Those clicks, they're not going to turn into sales anyway.
For me, the most important part is, you have to test, because it is so cheap to do a test. You can run a 1-week test and find out for yourself, okay, the guy on the article was right. It didn't work. Perfect. Now you can tell with proof, with facts. Okay, David, sorry, it didn't work, but it may work. So you need to start digging, finding what is it that works for you, and continue doing it and learn from that. Why is this working? How can I extrapolate this that is working into other areas?
Right, Luis, you've said something a couple of times that I think is really interesting, and I want to make sure we expand on it a little bit, is you have to have a clear understanding of what your objective is. Is part of the issue that businesses' objective is I just want some clicks and people come to my website, and they're not clear on the various things, the various levers that digital can pull.
There are two answers to that, Johnny, and that is a great question, because yes, I think many times, I just want to do Google Ads because my competition is doing it and I don't want to fall behind, okay? And in my opinion, the objective is very easy. Do I want to get more leads? Do I want to make more sales? Do I want to get more calls? Do I want people to see my new video? Whatever. That will be your objective. But that's the first part. And as I mentioned before, the second part is how you're going to measure that objective. And also that is something that I see a lot with my customers. I have a customer that was investing a lot of money trying to get leads, and they were not measuring the lead. So I was talking today to a Google counselor that I have, and he was telling me that, if you don't have the measurement of the result, then how can you judge? And it is like playing blindly, trying to put a stick on a map and finding Chicago. It's impossible. So these are the two steps. Okay, what is the objective? Make sure that it is objective, and second, make sure that you can measure it. Then you can tell. Okay, and there is another aspect to that in the internet world we call it conversions. Okay, but there is another one that is called micro conversions. Okay, so what is a micro conversion? Is okay, I didn't do the objective. I didn't click for the lead, but what will be something else that you will be happy that the customer did on your website that puts him closer to making a lead? Okay, so my objective is try to get the lead. I didn't get the lead, but they watched the video. They downloaded the white page. Okay, that's a micro conversion. So you can have like a second tier judgment. Okay, I'm not getting the conversions, but I am getting micro conversions. Okay, it's not that bad.
Luis, that's so compelling that that small gap between I'm doing Google AdWords because I want people to come to my website, which isn't an objective. Coming to my website isn't necessarily an objective. Coming to my website to watch a video is an objective that you can quantify, that you can measure, and it actually is causing something to happen. And I think businesses probably really need to zero in on that concept and give some thought as to what is it you're trying to make happen with your AdWords.
Right, because if you want to add another layer to that, is also many websites don't tell you what to do. There is a saying that if you don't tell me what you want from me, chances are that I will not do it. So I got to your website. It costs you. What do you want me to do? Mm-hmm. Give me a call to send you a quote. Send us an email to make an appointment. So it's the call to action. So we need to have a clear call to action on the website so that it's going to help people say, oh, okay, David wants me to send him an email to set up an appointment. Perfect. Great. Yeah. Okay.
Our friends Jeffrey and Brian Eisenberg, years ago, this is early 2000s, the three questions that I think every website needs to answer. This is once you think about it, it's so obvious, and it's something that they've been preaching for years, and it's something that it's the lens that I always use when I'm looking at a website is who's on the site, what do you want them to do, and what do they need to know in order to do that thing that you want them to do. And the tricky part is that those first two questions and the third, all three questions, have multiple answers. Who's on the site? That can be a variety of people. It could be an existing customer. It could be a prospective customer. It could be one demographic or another. And then what do you want them to do? Micro conversion, or do we want them to jump all the way to the bottom of the gravity well and become a full paying customer? And I think the most important one is, what do they need to know in order to do that? Like, what do they need to know about this video you want them to watch? Mm-hmm. What do you need them to know about how you're going to respond once they raise their hand and say, I want to do business with you, right? So if you use those three questions as sort of a lens, you can make great progress on making your ads work better just because your website's going to work better. It's going to convert more wherever you're doing your ads. And that's whether it's an AdWord or an ad that you mentioned there, the domain on the radio. right? It's going to do better if you answer those three questions or keep them in mind as you're building it.
And that's another great point, David, because, this is a teamwork. It's not only the advertising and it's not only the website, it's both of them working together. Because I can have the best advertising on radio, but if I fumble when I got the call, no one answered, takes too long to answer, or the person is rude, no sales. And who are you going to blame? Oh, campaign didn't work. No, problem is inside.
Absolutely.
Luis, what would you recommend that a business looks for when they are hiring somebody to manage and watch over just short of calling Luis Castañeda, which is what they should do. But what things would give a business owner an indication of, hey, this person is missing something?
Well, the integration between the advertising and the website.
Okay, connect the dots. Yeah,
connecting the dots. That's the key. Making sure that he asked for my objective. Okay, he understood my objective. He made sure that I am measuring my objective. He knows how to do it, and not only that, also connecting the dot of that objective to the Google Ads campaign. Because the beauty of connecting the dots is the machine learning from Google. Google has made a lot of progress with machine learning, and it is amazing all the magic that can happen once Google knows who are the ones that send you a lead. It's amazing. It works beautiful. So you have to look for those little details. It's not only, how much you want to spend, where you want to be, and which keywords. No, that's basic. That's wasting your time unless you only want traffic. But they need to understand your objective. They need to measure it, and they need to make sure that you can follow up with Google Ads that objective. So for me, those will be the key areas. People that want to understand what you are trying to achieve and make sure that they can measure it. For me, the way I see the internet and what is important is it is cheap to test, it is cheap to experiment, it is cheap to try. So go out and try it. Worst thing can happen, it didn't work, and fine, you are done. But also, as we mentioned before we started the table, is the message is what is important. It's not the medium. If you have a good message, if you have a coherent strategy, the medium is not the important thing.
I would just circle back around to the Uber situation. And I think mismanagement in terms of one of the things we didn't talk about was the nature of the mismanagement that caused them to lose millions in fraud was they weren't measuring success by the right metric, right? So, Luis, when you talk about, are we measuring some kind of a micro conversion? Well, somebody at Uber thought that downloading their app was how to measure success, when really measuring success for them would be, are people paying for rides? But they put this metric on downloading apps, and the company that they contracted with said, oh, we're just judged on and paid on how many people we can get to download the Uber app, regardless of whether they actually go for a ride. And so that's where a lot of their fraud came from, was these attribution fraud in other apps that would trick you into downloading the Uber app. And now the ad company got paid, ka-ching, because you downloaded the app, whether you used it or not, whether you had an account or not, you now downloaded the app. And so Uber's paying for that. And I think it was a huge case of they're measuring the wrong thing. And they're measuring something that's not how they grew, right? That's not what made Uber Uber. It was the fact that you could go from the airport to your house, or go from one bar to another, or here to there. It wasn't about, I need an app. It was, I need a ride. Right. And when they started measuring app downloads, that's the wrong thing to measure, and you open yourself up to people just taking advantage of that.
And that is a great point, David, because also there is you should always have a companion metric, It is
that's a good point.
If I start, I'm going to pay my salespeople by the volume of sales they make this month, chances are that they are going to offer a lot of discounts. They are going to be 20% discount. Oh, I sold 10,000, another 10,000. And at the end of the month, I'm going to have a lot of sales, but with a huge discount. Okay, so that's why you need to have a companion metric. Okay, my goal might make more sales this month, but, we need to have at least this profit. Okay, so going back to Uber, okay, let's assume that they wanted to grow based on the number of downloads. Perfect. Let's have a companion metric is downloads with at least one trip.
Yeah.
Okay, then that's a customer.
Yeah, we're not going to pay you if the download that you got us doesn't spend some money on a ride.
Luis and Dave and a whole host of digital experts at Wizard of Ads are worth getting to know because we are paid when ads work and when businesses succeed. We're not paid on which media we buy. All we're interested in is, did the thing do what we thought it was going to do? If you'd like to get in touch with us, here are some emails that you should know, and here are some other videos that are worth looking at.